Hello and welcome to Cardiff Central Station. This is the starting point for an epic journey I'm about to embark upon, where I'm going to travel all across the UK, entirely guided by AI. In this special behind the scenes episode, I'm going to be showing you some additional scenes and moments that you have not seen on the main episodes. If you're watching this, chances are you've already seen the entire series and you know where I ended up. But as of right now, I have no clue where I'm going. If this is your first time on the channel, firstly, hi, I'm Jessica, it's very nice to meet you. But secondly, you may want to consider watching the entire series before watching this. I'll link to it up in the corner there and also down in the description. But of course, you are welcome to stay if you want. You're not going to get lost. It's fine, don't worry. But anyway, I need to leave the station now so I can film the intro for the main episode. So let's go and do that. Hey, wait, what's going on here? Okay, so the first issue on my trip is that on the very first shot, the microphone failed. This shot that you're seeing now was intended to be the opening to episode 1, but when I came to the edit, it was entirely unusable. So I had to improvise and use the intro that I intended for this exact behind the scenes episode as the intro to the first episode. I wonder if any of you actually spotted that. Oh, hi by the way, how you doing? I'm Jessica. I hope you really enjoyed watching the series as much as I enjoyed making it. It's been great reading all of your comments throughout the series, and I'll be answering a few of your questions throughout this video, so make sure you stay tuned for those. But for now, let's start our story with day 1. Blissfully unaware that my first shot had failed, I had to wait around for my first train, which ChatGPT told me was Berwick-Upon-Tweed. I had 75 minutes to wait, so I just sort of started rambling to camera for a bit. This is amazing. The sun is out. See, it doesn't always rain in Wales. I mean, it mostly rains in Wales, but not all the time. One of the annoying things about Cardiff Central Station actually is that the announcements go on for freaking ages. Because it's a very busy station and all the trains leaving here call at a lot of stations, and then they announce it in both English and Welsh twice per train. So doing any sort of piece to camera is just constantly interrupted, so you just have to ignore all of the announcements that are happening in the background. It's going to play havoc with continuity. We have to make an edit halfway through. Time for our first viewer question. This is from TikTok, user 1010 blah 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 blah, lots of numbers commented. Can I ask why? Yes, you can. Here is me in the past to tell you why. While I wait for my first train, just thought I'd talk about what I hope to gain out of this series actually. This is an amazing country we live in. I mean, a lot of people feel like it's not. And of course I could just sort of plan a route around the country to my own itinerary, seeing things I want to see myself. But I live my entire life under plans. I plan for everything. Every holiday I take, it's multiple stops, and I know exactly where I'm going to be every single day. So I just wanted to get rid of that. I wanted to put my hands in the hands of someone else and do something that I have no clue what's coming up. I don't think there's been a single day in my life where I've woke up and I've not known where I'm sleeping that night. Like, I woke up this morning and I have no clue where I'm going to be in the country. I also wanted to explore the country and see some places that I probably would never have thought of seeing. Because you can Google things to do in the UK, you'll come up with a bunch of options, and then you just choose what interests you. But you kind of restrict yourself by what your interests are. So I wanted to expand my horizons essentially, and I feel like this first stop, Berwick-Upon-Tweed, is going to do that. I have never been there. I passed through it on the train once and it looks amazing from the train. It's like right by the sea. I think there might be a castle there, I'm not even sure. I mean, I'll Google it on the train and see what there is to do. So yeah, that's the reasoning. Let's see if I can actually achieve it. So day 1 should have been very simple. 2 trains, Cardiff to Birmingham and then Birmingham to Berwick-Upon-Tweed. First train, nice and simple, arrived on time, it was pretty quiet. There was a little trolley service, although they didn't have any sandwiches on board, just snacks and drinks. So I just ate my wrap that I had bought. But then when I arrived in Birmingham, it was complete chaos. There was so many people waiting to get onto this train, and I tried to find a seat. And I even managed to find a seat, but then someone kicked me out of it. So I moved to a different seat. Someone kicked me out of that. So I ended up just sitting in the vestibule for a bit near the accessible toilet. I was there for like about an hour and a half or something. I eventually got a seat when I got to Derby, but it was so full in that train. So I started checking train times. I looked at my phone and I realised that if I could change at York, I could probably get another train that might be a bit emptier. And luckily for me, it worked. So not only is this going to be a much quieter journey for me, it also means I can actually vlog it as well, because I'll tell you what, when you're on a busy train and you're sat next to random people and you've got some people standing next to you in the aisle, very self-conscious. I did get some like video on my phone which is weird because I'm using a GoPro, and yet I feel like taking a video on a phone is such a less intrusive thing than getting your GoPro out. I don't know, because the phone is a much bigger screen, and GoPro is a much smaller thing. Time for another video question, although this isn't really a question, it's more of a comment, but we'll go with it. When you said you were going to order a couple of bottles of wine, I thought, whoa, she's going to get so drunk, and then it turned up, and it made much more sense. Yeah, they were just the little bottles. They weren't like full-size bottles.
Dundee, Arbroath, Montrose, Stonehaven, and Aberdeen.
I might better go to one of those places eventually. I've done Edinburgh in
The
the past.
next station will be Darlington.
I've done Darlington, but South Carolina.
CCTV is in operation on this service for your safety and security.
Okay. So I get to Berwick, and of course by that point it's got dark. So I had a walk down the high street. Not much I could really see. It kind of looks like the clock is floating. So I decided to just head to my hotel and I'll explore it in the morning. I booked it at the Premier Inn. I mean, I did want to get like a small independent B&B or guest house or something like that. But for some reason everywhere that I saw was sold out. So I'm not quite sure what's going on, and in fact I'm glad that I booked the Premier Inn when I did. I booked it at Cardiff before I even left, and I just checked it now because I realised I accidentally booked an accessible room. There aren't any rooms available of any description at all, so maybe that accessible room that I booked was like literally the last room available. Hopefully no one who's in need of an accessible room actually needs it. Throughout my entire trip, hotels were one of my biggest worries because I didn't want to turn up at a place and then not be able to find a place to sleep that night. But then equally I didn't want to book it too early so that if I was unable to get there for whatever reason, I wasn't wasting money on a hotel. So I only booked a hotel when I knew, or when I was quite confident that I was going to get there. Later on in my trip, I was going to Aviemore, but I knew that there was a risk that I wouldn't make the final train of the day to Aviemore. So my plan was to not book that hotel until I actually got on the train. Oh, and this hotel here, that's the one that I did plan to stay in last night if I had actually managed to get here. So when I arrived in Edinburgh and I had missed the train, I didn't waste any money on a hotel in Aviemore, so I just booked a hotel immediately in Edinburgh. And the same when I was going to Fishguard, I wasn't even sure where I was going to overnight until maybe when I left Birmingham. But I didn't actually book the hotel in Swansea until I was on the train to Swansea when I changed at Newport. But going back to Berwick, I just turned up at my hotel and I just settled down for the evening. Okay. Safely in my Premier Inn in Berwick-Upon-Tweed. A glass of white wine from the bar downstairs. Very friendly staff here, by the way. Check-in person was really happy and friendly. The person at the bar, she gave me an extra bit in my wine. I've got a pizza on the way. So yeah, interesting journey. First train was nice. It was relatively quiet. Second train, complete chaos. It was a 4-car Voyager, and I didn't realise when I first made this plan that the line out of King's Cross to Peterborough is closed. So therefore a lot of people are being diverted onto other train operators. But I'm so glad I made that decision to change at York, because that final train was just so much nicer. And that train, the cross-country train that I was on, that I got off, it actually arrived 5 minutes before I actually did. So I actually only lost like 5 minutes anyway, and I had a much nicer journey. So service on board LNER, really good. Food was pretty nice as well. It was like a pre-packaged, pre-made thing that they just heated up, but you know, you wouldn't really expect that much more on a train anyway, but it was a nice product. And reasonable price. I wouldn't say it's cheap, it's reasonable. So I'm just gonna finish this wine and then also this other wine that I got from the train. And then I'll go explore the town tomorrow. I was thinking of going out this evening, but virtually pointless when it's dark. You can't really see much, and then the camera picks up even less from what I can see, so there's no point. Cheers. And here's my Premier Inn pizza. It was pretty good, to be fair. And I enjoyed that whilst watching the Daytona 500, which had been rain delayed from the day before. Time for another viewer question. Clive's Travel and Trains says, I guess if you specify the UK, the AI system could take you by surprise with a station in Northern Ireland. Yeah, I guess. Although I was very specific when I wrote the prompt, I did specify National Rail Network, which is England, Wales and Scotland. Northern Ireland has their own separate network. But also I did a lot of testing beforehand to make the right prompt. So when I was doing testing for the right prompt, it kept bringing up stations like St Pancras or Birmingham New Street or Manchester Piccadilly, and I was like, yeah, I mean I could go and do those types of stations, but I want something that's a bit more out of the way, a bit more small, that people maybe haven't heard of, that has something a bit interesting, a bit quirky about it. But I felt like if I was just constantly going to the main hubs, it wouldn't be as interesting a video series as going to the smaller stations. And ideally, some places I've never even heard of before, and I got that. I'd never heard of Rye, I'd never heard of Axminster, I'd never heard of Settle. Another viewer question. Roger JL UK says, ChatGPT could be a bit more considerate with the order. Perhaps it's testing to see how far it can push you yo-yo up and down GB. During testing, it did literally send me some random places. Like, for example, I think at one point it was doing Carew, and then it said go to Penzance. And then from there, it was like, or go to Inverness. I'm like, I didn't quite get anything that crazy during the actual filming, but Series 2, you never know. So, day 2, I wake up extremely early to go and explore the town of Berwick-Upon-Tweed. I didn't get that much time there, I just walked around to the castle walls for a bit, which was quite a nice walk. I really like learning about the history of it, all of which I actually just googled on my phone before I actually went there, although there was a couple of plaques and signs and stuff up as well, which was pretty cool. Just to say, reading that sign, essentially it says that these ramparts were built by Queen Elizabeth I, shortly after Berwick became English again, in order to keep the Scottish out. I shouldn't say that. I love you, Scotland, honestly I do. And then I head back to the station, realise I forgot my water bottle, go back to the hotel, grab the water bottle, then back to the station to head to destination number 2, which turned out to be Settle in North Yorkshire. This is one thing I discovered last night actually. You can actually reserve a seat even if you haven't actually booked it at the time of booking, so it's useful for if you've got like an open ticket or a Rover like I have. You just go onto the LNER website and find the service. It's a bit hidden, but then you can just reserve a seat for yourself up to 5 minutes before the train departs your station, which is pretty cool. Settle is actually not a place I had ever heard of, so it was interesting to find out about it and find out where it is. It's also a part of the country that I've never been to at all, so I was looking forward to going and exploring the area. So my route initially took me down towards Newcastle and then across the North Pennine line to Carlisle. The north of England is pretty nice actually, it's fairly scenic. I have been to sort of Northumbria before, and we stayed a night in about 3 nights actually, in this cottage in the literal middle of nowhere where there was no phone signal, and we were all ready to have 3 days to just switch off and not do anything. And then of course when we get there we find out there is Wi-Fi, but because it was so slow it was frustrating. So when you know there's Wi-Fi but it doesn't work, that's the annoying part. Settle was a really quaint little town. It is absolutely gorgeous. Unfortunately it was super rainy when I was there, and I was trying to keep my brolly as high as possible so the camera could see behind me. I don't think I was very successful at that, but in order to get out of the rain I decided to go to a little cafe, have a bite to eat, and whilst I was there find out what my next destination is. Except there was very bad signal in the area and I was asked it for the next destination, nothing loaded. I was waiting and waiting and waiting. Can't get a signal. Oh, this is typical. Excuse me. So do you mind if I get the Wi-Fi password? Oh yeah. So I managed to get the Wi-Fi password from the server, logged back onto ChatGPT, and the destination was already there. I didn't even get to see it doing that whole righty thing. Okay, so it's actually managed to find it, and I obviously didn't catch it because I was putting in the password, but the next station is Aviemore station in the Scottish Highlands. I wanted to see the writing bit coming in the edit, so I was like, oh, that's a bit messed up, but I managed to work my way around it in the edit. Viewer question time again. Sammy213 says, letting ChatGPT guide your trip, what could go wrong? Quite a lot. Destination number 3 was Aviemore in Scotland. So I quickly head back to the station and get a train up to Carlisle. Started working out some more routes and hotel options whilst I was on the train. So I get to Carlisle and I get onto a Trans-Pennine train. Okay, so the Trans-Pennine Express has this really great app where you can, again, see how full the train is. So showing me the back of the train, coach E is got few seats available, whereas D, which is second to the back, and A have many seats available. And I had a very tight connection in Edinburgh. Unfortunately, that Transpennine train arrived late, but then it just started getting later and later and later. Okay, so short update. We've left Lockerbie and we are 7 minutes behind, so we caught up a minute. So I think I'll probably be fine. I am just worried that if we incur further delays, which is quite likely as you're approaching a big station, big chance I could miss the train. It's worrying. I don't want to wake up at 6 AM to get a train up to North Scotland. I want to get there tonight. But as you probably know, I didn't get to Aviemore that evening. But because we were so delayed, we ended up getting stuck behind a ScotRail train that was stopping at all the smaller stations. And so we were on a bit of a go-slow heading into Edinburgh. And unfortunately that meant that by the time we got to Haymarket, the train that I needed to get up to Aviemore had already left. And so there was absolutely no way that I was going to get to Aviemore that evening. And so I just found myself a hotel in Edinburgh to stay in that night. And that brings me on to a viewer question. Trog BL said, did you not speak to anyone after you missed the last train? They should have provided alternative means of travel or provided the hotel room. And my answer to that is generally I would have. If I had just bought a single ticket, a regular normal ticket that got me to Aviemore that night, then definitely I would have been speaking to someone saying, listen, you need to sort something out. But because of the nature of my trip, I decided to just let it be. Also, as I mentioned earlier, I hadn't actually booked a hotel in Aviemore at that point. My plan was to book it when I was on that last train. And so I didn't actually lose anything by not getting there financially anyway. And it actually turned out that the hotel that I booked in Edinburgh was cheaper than the hotel that I was going to be getting in Aviemore that evening, so I actually saved a bit of money. It didn't save time, but it saved money at least. So that's why I didn't make a complaint to Transpennine. I did claim compensation though for the late train, but I'll explain all about that later in the video. So after trying and failing to just turn up at a hotel and asking if they had a room available, I just booked a room on the app and went to the Premier Inn hub near the station. Now that I'm safely in my hotel with the noisy aircon, let's debrief on the day, shall we? Nice glass of Pinot Grigio. I can't believe I started this morning in Berwick-Upon-Tweed, which is weirdly is like an hour's down the track from here, where I am here in Edinburgh. Very quick, brief stop in Settle. I think I would potentially go back to Settle, but when I have access to a car and actually be able to get out into the wider area. But a sort of little behind the scenes snippet for you. It might have felt like I rushed through it, and there was a reason for that. Is because I already had looked ahead at what the potential trains were. And I arrived at 3:05, and the next trains out of there were either at 4:20 going north or 4:30 going south. I was aiming to get one of those two trains because the next train was like an hour and a half later in each direction, and I knew there wasn't much to do there, so I was like, let's rush through and do what we can, then get out of there, go to the next destination. If it felt like it was rushed, that's why. And in fact, I'm actually glad that I did get out there when I did, because it then gave me the potential to get to Aviemore the same day, which, as you know, I didn't get to because here I am in Edinburgh. I was anticipating getting out the train and then having to run to the other platform to catch the train and jump on it just as it was pulling away. But like what happened to me in Vienna. Have you ever watched the video where I travelled from UK to Austria? It wasn't Austria, sorry, it was Hungary. I travelled that in 24 hours straight. Go watch that video. It's in the corners, whichever corner it is. I think it's this one. I can never remember when I'm filming because everything's in the wrong direction. But what I'm going to do is catch the very first train out of here tomorrow morning. It leaves at 6:35, so it's going to be a very early start for me. I have told you before, I'm not a morning girl. Let's cut to tomorrow morning, where hopefully I'm getting that 6:35 train. Cheers. I did manage to get up the following morning, but it seems I was a little bit too time efficient. Since when did Oreo have a collaboration with Pac-Man? I am so early. I allowed myself an hour and 10 minutes from when I set my alarm to when the train leaves. Turned out I probably needed about 40 minutes. Oh well, at least I'm not going to miss it. That's the important thing. In retrospect, I think it was actually better that I did get the train in the morning rather than the train in the evening, because the scenery was amazing. And if I had got the train in that evening, that whole journey would have been in the dark. I would not have seen a thing. But because I got the morning train, and after I changed it perfect, the sun had already come out, and I got to see that whole trip in the light. So when I got to Aviemore, I went to this little nature reserve thing, and I tried and failed to find any sort of wildlife apart from a few ducks and some other birds. Yeah, the only wildlife I've seen is mallards and what looks like a seagull, possibly a heron. You can tell I'm not a bird watcher. I don't mind looking at birds, but in my opinion it has to have something that's interesting about it, like rare or fun colours. Well, I'm not going to go into a hide and look at swallows, for example. I see those in my garden. And of course, being Scotland, the weather just couldn't make its mind up what it was doing. I can feel a few spots of rain. Hopefully it holds off, but if not, I've got my brolly. Yeah, brolly's out. I mean, it's not heavy, but it's still something. Not 3 minutes later, sun's back out and it stopped raining. It's that old expression, if you don't like the weather in Scotland, just wait 10 minutes, it'll change. The weather was a recurring issue for me because I was doing this at the end of February, sort of coming out of winter into spring, sort of. And because I was travelling all over the country, the weather, I just didn't know what to prepare for. And I feel like I was completely underprepared for what I needed to do. I am totally not dressed for the rain. And you might even argue that I'm not even dressed for Scotland in general. And you'd be perfectly within your rights to think that. I agree. I completely forgot to pack a hat or gloves. An umbrella isn't the best thing to be having when you're right next to the sea where it blows a lot. Do I even need it anymore? No, the rain stopped. Before I left Edinburgh, I decided to go grab a square sausage sandwich. I actually love square sausage. You can't really get any near where I am, so I was like, if I'm in Scotland, I need the square sausage. But in general, I ate really badly on this trip. Now the other issue I've got is dinner. With that small connection, I haven't got time to buy anything at Haymarket, so I'm relying entirely on either this train or the next train having some sort of trolley service with food. At the moment, I've got a pack of Doritos. That's not going to sustain me for the evening. When you're travelling around, I tend to eat what I would describe as meat in bread. You'd have like bacon sandwiches or ham rolls or burgers. That's just typical like grab and go kind of stuff. And also anytime I did buy any food, I typically put it into my small little handbag, and I kept getting crushed in there. It wasn't a good plan. I'm going to eat my Doritos that I bought yesterday. Kind of got a bit crushed though. Actually, they're not too bad. You know what's weird? I still have this thing. I bought this from Tesco on the very first day. It's a salted caramel flavour vitamin and protein bar, and it's not supposed to be this thin. Yeah, this is a prime example of what I had to deal with. It's not supposed to look like this. It's quite nice, to be fair. In the evenings I did try to eat proper meals, but because I was arriving so late in places quite often, places tended to be shut, so I'll just eat in the hotel whatever they had available. So like a pizza at the Premier Inn, or in Edinburgh actually had a curry, which I'm assuming just a microwave meal that they heated up for me. I actually think dinner at Swansea was on the train and I had a croissant because that's what they had on the trolley. They didn't have any regular sandwiches, they only had croissants. Time for another viewer question. This one's from G Loves Trains. Love your content, by the way, keep up the good work. She says the first 10 seconds should be a video in itself. That's in relation to this clip. Well, hello and welcome back to the series. You find me at the Naked Man Cafe in Settle. That's a real thing, by the way, I'm not making that up. then she goes on to say, I'm really enjoying the series. Thank you. Guessing we'll see some beautiful whales next time. Yeah. On leaving Aviemore, I asked ChatGPT for the next destination, and it's Fishguard in Wales. So I jumped on the first train down south. For some reason, all the journey planners were saying leave in about 4 hours time and then arrive at 6 PM the following day. And I was like, surely it's not going to take that long to actually get there. So I had to kind of concoct my trip myself. And it turned out I did arrive early the following morning, so I'm not quite sure what the journey planners were talking about there. But my route had me go down to Edinburgh and then change onto an Advantage train over to Crewe to get another train to Cardiff, and then I'd either overnight there or travel on to Swansea and then heading off to Fishguard the following morning. But on this journey is when I encountered my first, and I think actually my only, cancelled train, which was the Transport for Wales train from Crewe to Cardiff. So I decided to reroute myself via Birmingham New Street to get another cross-country train. I should have learnt from the first day, don't get cross-country trains from Birmingham New Street. But luckily I managed to push my way onto the train and find myself a seat. I have been warned by a few friends that Swansea can get a little bit rough, so I didn't know how true that was. I'd never been to Swansea, so I decided that rather than vlog my trip to the hotel, when I leave the train I put my camera away and then walk down the 15 minutes to my hotel. But it turned out it probably wasn't in the best location for me.
Well, good morning from a rainy Swansea. I'm just heading to the station now after my night here. I only got about 6 hours worth of sleep. It's not a lot. I didn't actually realise that the hotel is basically at the end of Nightclub Alley. Hey, rainbows! It seems like all of the nightclubs are in this kind of area here where the hotel was. I'm just making my way past all the cleaners who are cleaning up after all the revellers. Oh look, more rainbows. Anyway, I'll see you at the station. So Fishguard seems to be on a, well, it's at the end of the line essentially, but the end of the line is actually Fishguard Harbour. I'm going to get off at Fishguard and Goodwick, is that what it was called? So that's one stop before the end. And I think I'm going to have about 3 hours before the next train out. And clearly I'm going to be on that train because I can only go in one direction, so.
The train over to Fishguard was one of those really old and really noisy Class 150s, and it wasn't the most pleasant train to ride on.
So I was just looking a bit closer at this train and I was like wondering what kind of passengers are they expecting on here, because they've taken all of the seat back tray tables off. It seems a bit weird, doesn't it? If anyone knows why that's happened, just do let me know.
Throughout my whole time travelling, I experienced quite a lot of late trains, but a miracle happened on this leg.
We are now at Woodland Station and we seem to have arrived 6 minutes early. 6 minutes early. That is mental crazy. These windows are really dirty. I used to work in TV back in the former life. Well, I suppose I still do technically. Just between jobs right now. But years ago I worked on Extreme Railways with Chris Tarrant, the Channel 5 show, if you ever seen that. If Chris was sat at a dirty window, he would literally jump out at the next station and just clean the window, because he wants to be able to see out in the nice views. Maybe I need to do the same.
I arrive in Fishguard and start looking around, but there isn't really that much to do.
It's such a shame that that aquarium isn't open at the moment, because I do like aquariums and looking at fish. I'm trying to work out how delicious they are. I shouldn't say that. No.
This is one thing I actually really wanted to achieve with this series, was to actually do something in every location I got to. And I just feel like it was a product of the time of year that I was going and just turning up things at the last minute. There wasn't that much to do, or if there was things to do, they weren't operating at that time. So for example with Aviemore, there was a steam train that I could have got on, but they had sold out the tickets for that day. The aquarium of Fishguard was only open on the weekends and I turned up on, I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. In Settle there was a waterfall I wanted to visit, but it was a long walk away, and in this clothes that I was wearing, it wouldn't have worked. And in my final destination, Axminster, I wanted to go see the Jurassic Coast, but I just literally ran out of time. So if I ever do this type of trip again, I'm definitely going to do it in the summer when more things are open and I can actually spend a bit more time doing things. Time for another viewer question. Eek My Nibs says, this must cost you an arm and a leg. And to be fair, it was not too bad. Now, I didn't buy individual tickets to get to my destination. I actually had what's called an all-line Rover, which allows you to take pretty much any train in the UK for a period of 7 days or 14 days. So the cost of a Rover, a standard class 7 days, is £598, or you get one for 14 days, which is £908. Although those are the prices from March 2024, I travelled in February, so I actually got it slightly cheaper. And there's only a very few restrictions. You're not allowed to travel before, I think it's 9 or 9:30 on certain companies from certain stations, but none of that affected the journeys that I was going to make. Other than that, you're free to travel wherever you want during that whole 7-day period. Hotel costs weren't too bad either. I was really surprised that you can still get reasonably priced hotels even booking them on the day. So that didn't cost all that much. So £600 might sound like a lot of money to spend on trains, and yeah, it kind of is. But it would have cost me a lot more if I bought lots of individual tickets. So I felt like I had saved money. All in all, adding everything up, you've got the train ticket, the hotels, food and various other bits and bobs that I bought. It was about £1,300–1,400 for the trip. I also made a delay repay claim for every single delayed train that I was able to. I'm not sure if you're aware, but in the UK, if a train is more than 15 minutes late, or for some companies 30 minutes late, you can actually make a claim for compensation because of your late train. And so I made a total of 4 claims for a total of £152.96. Sorry, I'm just reading that from the Excel that's on my computer over there. And including the train that I got to Edinburgh, which was supposed to go on to Aviemore, and I got a total of £81.57 back for that one trip alone, for being more than 120 minutes late. So I think that compensates for the cost of the hotel. But because I was using a Rover, they kind of calculate things a little bit differently. Probably could have been more compensation had I booked individual tickets, but this was just the best way to do it. But I did have some issues at the barriers. So like, it didn't work every single barrier I got to. It worked in a few places but didn't work in others. So for example, it worked in Cardiff, it worked in Edinburgh, it didn't work at Newcastle, it didn't work at Birmingham New Street. Not scan it for me. Thank you. It didn't work at St Pancras International. It did work at Waterloo East, but didn't work at Waterloo. I don't know why that was. I also feel like quite a few of the train conductors don't see Rovers all that often, because I got some interesting comments all saying, "Oh, you got a Rover, have you? Very nice."
A Rover, it's a Rover.
Yes, thanks. I'm leaving Fishguard. Very easy journey to my next destination, which was Rye in East Sussex. Just got a train over to Carmarthen, where I changed onto a GWR train, which took me all the way through to Paddington. Nice and simple, despite a slight diversion via Bath. Quick change on the London Underground over to the South Eastern High Speed line to Ashford International, and then a Southern train to Rye. Relatively simple journey. Despite the diversion, I still arrived in a decent time, and I headed off to my hotel. Here we are, safely in my hotel. Whew, that was another long day. I'm just gonna relax for the rest of the evening now. I've just been out for dinner. I went to this sort of Mexican place. I didn't know that was what it was when I walked in. I thought it was like a pub. I just saw a place with people in the window eating food, and I was like, okay, fine. But I get in and they were like people wearing Mexican hats, and they were playing, I want to say Mexican music. It wasn't Mexican music, kind of salsa-y type music. Oh, and they gave mints. I can't remember if there's anywhere I've been to in the UK that gives after dinner mints. You get it a lot in South Africa, but not so much in Britain. So woke up in Swansea at, what time did I actually wake up? I don't even remember. I think it was like 7:15 or something. I was actually really surprised at that hotel, considering I had to go through where all the nightclubs were. It was actually really quiet on the inside. There was a bouncer at the door who asked me what my room number was. I was like, I've not checked in yet. Fishguard was okay, actually. It was better than I expected. I don't really know what I expected. I suppose because it has a ferry port, I was kind of assuming it to be quite industrial, but it wasn't really. I went for a nice walk, and every single person I walked past was really friendly. Said hello. Saw a lot of dogs, which I quite like because I'm getting a dog soon. You'll find out more about that. I had never heard of Rye, so I don't even know exactly where it was, and so I spent a lot of time researching that and how to get here. Oh yeah, that was one thing that I found interesting on a train. But both on the high-speed service and also the train here from Ashford, there were a lot of people drinking alcohol. I know what it's like to feel that exhausted and get on the train home, and all you want to do is just sort of pass out. And I could see those faces again, and I'm so glad that that's not me anymore. I work from home mostly, and sometimes I do feel like that, but I know that my commute from my desk to my sofa is about 20 seconds. I'm so grateful that that is what I'm able to do. But yeah, the alcohol. This lady that was sat across the aisle from me, she had 2 like massive cans of Stella, and she was already on the second one before I even sat down. So tomorrow I'm going to explore Rye. It's been great talking to you again. I'll see you tomorrow. Oh, why did I do that? I've messed my lens up now. And the following morning on day 5, I actually managed to get to do something by going up into the bell tower of the local church. The corridors were pretty tight, as they do tend to be in these really old buildings, but the view from the top was pretty good.
I like my time here in Rye. Probably could have spent a few more hours here, but that's how things go in this series. You just grab the first train out, right? But the next train isn't actually for another 23 minutes, so I've got time to get a cup of tea. There's a little coffee shop over there, so I think I'll go grab a cup of tea before getting the train in 20 odd minutes. Oh, I suppose I also need to find out where I'm going to be sleeping tonight.
Destination number 6 was Axminster in Devon. On leaving Rye, I head back to London. The journey planner did suggest that I just get a train from Ashford straight to Waterloo East, but I decided to instead just go on the high-speed line again, just because why not? It's a fast line and I fancy to go on it. And then I just went down through London, on the Thames link to London Bridge, and then over to Waterloo East from there to get the South West train all the way down to the final destination of Axminster.
Okay, so that one has been repainted, relivered, and this one's still in the old South West train, this one, just with the new logo on it. It must cost a lot of money to repaint these trains every time the franchise changes. This is just one of the downsides of the franchising system. Well, one of the many downsides, and probably one of the minorest, that's a word, that I've just invented. Okay, let's get on board. This is the front coach.
It was a very pleasant but very boring journey. Not that much to say about it. Then I turn up at Axminster and I head to my hotel, which I had booked not realising just how old the hotel is. It's like 264 years old, built in 1760. And yeah, and when I was Googling like what to do in Axminster and what there is, the George Hotel just kept coming up as a place you might want to visit, and I was like, I've already booked to stay there. So it just felt really weird that I'd inadvertently booked myself into this massive landmark hotel. It's a really nice hotel actually, although the wardrobe was a bit iffy.
What's that? Oh god. How did we get this closed now?
Good old-fashioned pub as well downstairs. Great food. If you're ever in Axminster, definitely go there. The food was absolutely amazing. The only thing I would improve about it is maybe a bit more noise cancellation. It was right by the road, so it was a little bit noisy. So maybe some double glazing would work if they're allowed. I'm sure it's a really old, probably listed building, so maybe they can't do that, but that's the only little criticism I had of the hotel. Everything else was absolutely brilliant.
Let me just check the bed. Oh, here's a firm one. Wow, and the GoPro's getting all confused as to which way round is up. Okay. This has definitely been the shortest travel day of my entire trip. But I do kind of feel like I'm cheating because I've checked into a hotel at 5 PM. I mean, what's the average time I've been checking in now? About like 9 or 8 maybe?
On day 6, my journey ended, but not before I had just one more place to go and visit.
In a few weeks' time, we're going to go get a puppy.
and today we have a booking to go and see the puppy. I wasn't sure if I would actually be able to go, but as luck would have it, ChatGPT brought me to Devon, where our puppy is based in Cornwall. So it's actually pure luck that I'm actually able to go. My wife was going to go regardless, and I was like, I'll go if the schedule will allow. And guess what? The schedule allowed. It was such a relief when I was actually in Rye and it told me, well, I'm going to be going to Devon. I was like, I can see the puppy, yay! So yeah, on day 6, I get the train down to Plymouth where I meet Fran. He then drives us to the place where the puppies are. And oh my God, they were so cute. They were little, tiny little fluffy things. They were only like 4 weeks old at the time. And so they were obviously too young for us to take home. But when they were 8 weeks old, we went back and we collected him and brought him home. He was this cute little thing. He was like amazing, but he was so noisy in the car. He just would not shut up. 3.5 hours home all the way to South Wales. Oh my God, it wasn't the most pleasant ride at all. But when we got him home, he's settled in and is now firmly part of the family. And here he is today, aged 15 weeks. Oh, he's gotten so much bigger, hasn't he? Everybody, meet Drax. Say hello to camera, Drax. Come on. Oh, yay! We've been having so much fun together, haven't we? Teaching you how to do things, going exploring. We will be filming some more videos with him. I think we plan to go eventually to see some waterfalls and maybe some places like Cheddar Gorge. We're going to do some travelling together on trains and even other types of transports. So if you want to see more vlogs featuring the awesome, cute Drax the German Shepherd, stick around, don't forget to subscribe. Oh, you're getting a bit antsy. Oh, are you having fun though? You're going to be an internet superstar. He already is. He's got an Instagram. Go check that out. Do you want to go down? Okay, there we go. Well, that's it for the series. I hope you enjoyed watching it as much as I enjoyed making it. But would this really be a recap video if we didn't have a musical montage of my entire trip? Well done for that. But before we do, don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment, all the other YouTube stuff. I can't wait to do this trip again. I will do this again at some point in the future. I don't know when. We'll find out. But for now, let's cue the lyrics. That's where you'll find the B&M. I have never heard of this place.
This rodeo's got me looking like a bad, bad girl. I should go.
A little bit rainy. I'll just deal with it. I am going to travel across the UK and I am going to let AI decide exactly everywhere that I go. That makes no fucking sense. Hello and good morning from... Where are we?
Oh, shitty train, I know for certain I'm insane. Nothing can live here.
It wasn't a good journey.
The mud is so deep, I can't see.
Welcome to Scotland.
Don't take me far away, past these mediocre days. I need to stop this burn.
Last attempted invasion of Britain.
Say, can you help me unlearn?
There's apparently flooding, which is lovely.
This rodeo's got me feeling like so I should go before I'm out. Oh no. This rodeo's got me looking like a bad, bad girl. I should go before I'm out. No.
Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. And what else do I normally say? I've forgotten. There. Hair in my mouth. What else was I about to say? About it, really? Thank you so much for watching the series. I appreciate every single like, every comment, every share, and of course a massive extra special thanks to all of our subscribers. This may only be a small channel at the moment, but I have ambitions to grow this quite a lot, and so by subscribing you'll really help me with that. I promise to continue making the best videos possible. I have a lot of ideas and lots of branded contents bubbling around in my brain, and if you stick with me, I'm sure we're going to have a lot of fun together.
This rodeo's got me feeling like so I should go before I'm out.
There's the naked man. That's good, I like that. And I stop in Edinburgh or maybe somewhere on the way, somewhere like maybe Perth or Stirling. It would help that the camera didn't fall down, wouldn't it?